Hello, everyone. This is Lauren Steiner, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Robust Opposition. I'm doing one of my favorite shows, which is with workers who are trying to unionize, because you know that I'm a huge Bernie Sanders supporter. Bernie's a great union supporter, and every worker deserves a right to be in a union if they want to. So today, the people who are with me are Arianna Lingerfeldt, who is a line cook at Green Sage Cafe in South Asheville, one of the 3 Green Sage locations. Welcome to the show, Arianna.
Thank you.
And also is Liz Lee, who is a former manager of that location, who was actually fired when she came out in support of the union. We're going to learn all about this effort and what happened since they tried to start it in just a minute. But first, I'd like to say that I did call Randy Talley, who is the owner of the 3 Green Sage Cafes. I invited him to be on the show or to submit a written statement saying why he is not supporting this union. And that was several days ago. I never heard back, so I assume he was not interested in telling his side of the story. Apparently, that also happened with the Citizen Times. They said that he declined to comment. So let's start out with you, Arianna. Tell us why and when you decided to start this union. What was the precipitating factor?
It was mostly just build up from months and for me over a year of just mismanagement of our store and especially of all 3 locations. But during the water crisis over the holiday break is when we all started realizing just like how much management really didn't care about us and how much they were just going to make us deal with instead of them. So we all got together and started talking, and that's when the topic of unionization came up.
Talk a little bit more about what happened during the water crisis. Lay out some of the issues as you laid out at the rally and to the Citizen Times.
That we got a call when we were open saying that the city had tested our water and it had come back with something in it, and to just be on standby. And so all of us as workers were kind of confused on what to do and how we should handle it and how to put our best foot forward. And we later got the news that about the water crisis happening throughout the whole city, and we were forced for multiple days to open still and go in. And even though we had a little bit of water, or some of our sinks were working, but all of our water is pressurized, so we didn't have coffee, we couldn't wash dishes. There was a lot of issues when we didn't have restrooms, etc. So we tried to tell upper management that. They sent someone in who came in and just, turned on all of our faucets and was like, you have water enough to open, and didn't check any of the things that we were telling them about. And this went on for a couple of days of just opening, and then them at some point realizing like we can't continue to be open and having us shut down in a hurry and go home and then start, rinse, repeat.
Now, Liz, you were the manager, and you told me you were the manager for just a few short months from November of last year to February of this year. So you were there during this water crisis. Were you sympathetic to what Arianna just talked about, and what did you try to do about it?
Sure. I tried to make an executive decision to close the store. It felt like the right thing to do. The city was encouraging water conservation. There were multiple crew members without water for like 5 or 6 days in their homes. And I was met with a lot of, our company policy is that the owner is the only person allowed to close the store. And they're very strict about that. So it took a lot of convincing. But yeah, we finally closed the store. I think it was like a few hours before the city came around and made everyone close.
Okay, now you found out about the union. How did you first hear about it? Who told you, and what was your reaction?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Okay. I found out about the union, I guess. I mean, it was right at the beginning of everyone talking about it. And I thought it was a great idea as a supporter of unions in our country and as a supporter of the movement that's happening right now. I immediately said, yeah, I think it's great.
And then what happened?
We did a lot of education, a lot of talking. We did a lot of meetings. And then when we had made the collective decision to move forward, we presented a letter that the committee that we had formed in our store had crafted, stating that we were forming a union and that we would like Randy to just recognize it, and that we had intentions of filing with Teamsters Local. And we all signed our names and we sent it to him.
Now, would that be something for, I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of organizing a union, but you were management. Was that something that you would generally be involved in, signing your name to a union drive?
No, it's not. It's something that is unique in its of itself, and I don't really know what to say about that other than I could see toxic work dynamics. I think there's always room for this conversation, and so I knew that I was possibly going to be under scrutiny for it, but I think that it's worth it, and I think it's important for Green Sage to be able to unionize.
And ultimately, you were fired. You believe it was because of the support of this. I'm sure that's not what they told you, though, right?
No, they actually told me that.
Wow.
The whole conversation, they had brought me in to talk to me, and I had pretty much, passionately talked about unionizing. I spoke, in a way I was just trying to get Randy to understand that this could be a really amazing thing for Green Sage, that it could be the first independent restaurant in Asheville to do this. And post-COVID, the hospitality industry has a lot of turnover, has a lot of problems. And our store could be like a really good place to see how this happens. I mean, it's a small business. This is an intimate conversation. If we can't have it here, where else can we? And so he put me on an administrative leave for a little less than a week and did an investigation. And at the end of the investigation, called me in for a very brief phone call and just told me, that he thought that the way he saw it was that I was making a decision that would have, financial impacts on his business. And in that way, he felt like I wasn't doing the right thing for the business, and he let me go.
Now, are you, well, I guess everybody's an employee at will in the state of North Carolina. So I was going to ask you if you were considering filing a wrongful termination suit, but I guess unless you have a contract, which most restaurant managers do not have, there wouldn't really be an opportunity for that. Well, let's get into the issues that were listed in the Citizen Times allegation. First one was wage theft, which is a pretty serious allegation. What could you tell me about that, either of you?
I don't mind talking about this if that's okay.
Okay. I can talk about it too.
Okay, cool. I'll go first. I think that wage theft is something that's happened in the very recent history of Green Sage, like within the last 2 years. I'm not sure of the exact date, but he had settled a lawsuit. As soon as I entered that work environment, it was very clear that the people that worked there did not trust the company that they worked for obvious reasons. And so what the union is asking is wage transparency. If you are a barista at Green Sage and you pick up a shift in the kitchen or anywhere else, which several people do, and you look at your pay stub, you have no way of interpreting how much money you're getting paid. You can't tell what your tip pool is. The hourly rates fluctuate. They have implemented a 10% service fee in response to the lawsuit as a way to pay our kitchen better than previously. So what Green Sage is asking for right now is wage transparency in response to recent wage theft.
Okay. Do you want to add anything to that, Arianna, or did she pretty much cover it?
I think I would just like to add, like talking about the service fee, because I know a lot of people don't actually know what that is. And what it is so about the lawsuit is that they were paying supposedly they're paying front and back of house out of a tip pool, which is not legal in North Carolina. So they got the theft because of that, because people didn't want to share the tip pool between front and back of house, which I agree with. So they initiated the 10% service fee. So 10% of every single order goes into a pool for back of house, which back of house gets paid out of. So tipping for front of house is completely separate. And a lot of people don't know that, and they think it is a forced 10% tip. So front of house tips have actually gone quite down because of that. And so
Mm.
they're not getting paid as much as they
You know,
should be.
it's interesting. It's interesting that you say that because when I'm only living in Asheville for 2 years, and when I first started going there, I saw that, and I asked, I said, is that because some people don't tip at all? That you're trying to make sure you get at least a 10% tip? Because sometimes when you just come to the counter and all you order is a coffee, maybe you wouldn't be inclined to tip on that, or a muffin that someone's just taking right out of the case for you. And I was told yes. At least I believe I was told yes. That's always what I thought. So you're educating me now. It's also interesting because my son is a dishwasher over at Tupelo Honey, and he's making the best wage he's ever made here in the 2 years. He's making $16 an hour, but of course he does not get tips. But he does get benefits. Of course, he has to pay into them. And actually, he's got Crohn's disease, so the minimal health plan they have wouldn't cover all of his treatments. So he's choosing to be on the exchange. But I thought it was a great, company compared to some of the other places he worked, which I will not name. But going on to some of the issues, scheduling. Okay, so I'm sorry, talks. Got to scroll way up. Discrimination. You're alleging discrimination. I'm wondering if that is a protected class of people or just people in general. How does it manifest itself? Who is discriminated against?
I think the main way we've talked about discrimination previously is just that there are some products within the store that are pretty offensive to the people that work there. So it's something that we've addressed with management and they're currently working on. Their temporary fix is just to take them out of the store, which is good enough for now, but we would like them to just completely stop purchasing products from this company as a whole.
And can you share with us what the product is and the company?
It is 12 Tribes Synergy Bars, and they're yerba mate.
So you think it's like appropriation, like Native American appropriation? Is that it?
No, they're a really big company that's actually global, and we've done a lot of research, but they have a lot of child labor allegations. They have a lot of like child abuse allegations. They have a lot of just like if you look at their website, they are discriminatory, they're homophobic, they are racist, they are anti-Jewish people. Yeah,
Oh,
so there's a lot of issues with them. And we would
well,
like them like when we come into our store on the counter, they're right across from like our pride flag that one of us put up, and we just feel like terrible that they're there. And then we have to walk by them every day.
you think he wouldn't put up a fight about that because he's got this reputation as, everything is organic and sustainable and recycling and composting. You told me in the pre-interview, Arianna, that that's not always the case. Can you elaborate?
So I know when we were doing some research on the company and just seeing like, well, what do they market themselves as? We came across things on their website saying things like we all have solar panels, all three stores, and we do not. We all have solar and wind energy, like one of those M. And also that, yeah, all the locations recycle, they're green certified, they're living wage certified, that they compost, etc. And it's not consistent across all three locations. Our store actually had to fight in order to get composting and recycling back, and they've kind of really dropped the ball and pretty much made us re-implement it and figure out and work with the landlord how to re-implement it. Liz can talk about that. But they're just not living up to what they say they are, and they keep trying to tell us that they're so progressive and they're actually the first place in Asheville to do this kind of thing. And when I personally, as someone who goes and eats out around Asheville, like I see other places doing the same things we do. We're not any better than anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm on the Asheville Food Policy Council, and one of my specific areas is food waste. And I was in that complex, the Red Fiddle Vittles catering company. I was asking them if they compost, and they said no. And they said it's very difficult there in that complex to do even recycling. And you have anything you want to add about that, Liz?
No, I think that Arianna summed it up pretty well. But yeah, we weren't doing any composting at all. We are now. Sure, it's difficult, but these are the things that they can figure it out. And if they can't, then it shouldn't be a part of the brand.
Yeah, yeah. Early Girl is very good about composting, I'll tell you. They send all their food scraps over to Sunny Point Cafe because they have a garden there.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and they also collect their vegetable oil and they turn it into biofuels, from the frying, stuff. So I thought that was very good. So now, so you're, we talked about benefits, didn't we? Did I ask you about the 30 hours or maybe I started to ask. Okay, so you're not asking for a wage increase. At least it didn't say so in the article. Can I assume that means that you're all getting at least the current living wage, which has been $17.70 an hour. Now it's going up to $20 this month?
Front of house does not. Front of house gets paid 17, I believe, as base. Back of house does get the previous living wage, is what I'm going to call it, $17.70.
Okay, so that's
we get 18.
I'm sorry. One thing that they will be asking for in the is for Green Sage to be and stay living wage certified. Instead of increase, asking for that certification,
Right. So the benefits are the issue then, because you were telling me that you have to work 30 hours in order to get these benefits, and you're not. Talk a little bit about that.
I've been asking for 30 hours consistently the whole time I've been there, and it's only been because people like Liz and my upper management, like at my store, actually care about me getting that, because I have chronic pain issues and I need health insurance, and I'm willing to work for it and I'm willing to do those hours. But getting put on the schedule for 30 hours is a consistent fight across the board for everybody. So they say, like, yeah, if you work 30 hours, you get it, but then they make that an extreme fight to get there. And they expect you to either travel across the whole city, like going to different locations, which was not like specified when you start, or just for you to suck it up.
Yeah, I find the whole scheduling, not just in the restaurant business, but even in retail in general these days, to be very upsetting. As somebody who is a lot older than you guys, probably even older than your mothers, I can tell you that back in the day, when you had a job, it was a 40-hour-a-week job, whether it was in a restaurant or whether it was in a store. And you came into work whether there were customers in the store or not. And now they have these very with the computers, they can figure when you're going to be busy, when you're not going to be busy. I was shocked to find my son, for some of his previous jobs, it hasn't happened at Tupelo, but he's sent home when they're not busy. And here he was counting on working that day. Now, apparently there's some state law that they have to pay you for at least 4 hours, even if they send you home. But it's impossible to even get a second job because you don't know what your schedule is going to be till like a week before. How soon in advance do they let you know your schedule there, Arianna?
They try to have it posted on Friday, so our schedule is Thursday to Wednesday, so they try to get it posted the previous Friday, but sometimes it could be as late as the Sunday or Monday, and they can change it at any point and not tell us as well. It's a big problem that a lot of us have, is they'll change it overnight, and then you wake up and, oh no, you're late for work, and you didn't even know you had a shift that day.
Right. That's happened to my son. That's happened to my son. If he doesn't check the schedule every day for a change, But now the other thing was, like if you are going to school and you're taking classes, then you tell them and they won't schedule you. So at least you can do something like that, right? You can have something
Mhm.
else that's steady and then they work around it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, for me, that's been accurate. Yeah. But again, I would say that's mostly due to people like Liz, like my GM, that actually cares to hear about when my schedule is. I would not say upper management has ever tried to work around my school schedule.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned at the beginning that you are a senior at UNC Asheville.
Hmm.
Yes, and you are from Gastonia.
Yes.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you from, Liz?
I'm from Maryland. I'm a
Okay,
recent transplant. Yeah.
okay. How you liking Asheville?
I love Asheville. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, Asheville is great. This
Great.
is a little bit of an aside, but you know, I just read the Asheville Watchdog article on downtown, and they just feel they're so under assault by the homeless. And a lot of people that care about that issue from the point of view of the homeless thought it was a little bit of a hit job because they had business owner after business owner after business owner just explaining how they're getting accosted on the way to their cars, and there's feces and urine and people sleeping in their doorways and all this sort of stuff. Was that an issue for you at all in your store?
No.
We're not in downtown. We have a location downtown, but our store is on Hendersonville Road, so we don't have too much of an issue with that, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, the next issue, the next installment of the series is supposed to be from the point of view of the houseless. So hopefully it'll be a little bit more balanced.
Hopefully, yes.
So now, what was the process you went through to start a union? You say you're going with the Teamsters. That's a pretty established union. Do they give you a roadmap of how to do it and, get the cards and the votes, and what help have you gotten from Asheville Food and Beverage United?
Do you want
Ariana,
to
I
talk
feel like
about this one?
you've been doing so
Okay.
much of the work. She's our chair, sits in the chair position of the committee.
Yes, we met with Teamsters. We first just had a meeting where we invited a bunch of different people from unions, a bunch of different representatives to come. Teamsters was one of them, and our representative just kind of walked us through next steps, which would be at the time. So the first steps to forming a union is that you want at least 30% of your workplace on board in the beginning. That is enough to file for an election. I think at the time we had over 50. I'm not quite sure the exact number at that time, but we had way more than 30. Um, so then the next step beyond that is you sign cards, or you can sign a petition and send it to your boss, which we kind of did both. We signed cards and then we signed a letter to Randy asking for him to accept us as a union. And then we filed for an election, and our first election actually got thrown out because Green Sage is taking the stance that Liz coerced us because she supported us. They want to try to say that she made us do it. She used her GM
Ooh.
influence. And we recently just refiled for an election, and the proposed date is March 30th. But Green Sage has until the 8th to say their piece on it, whether they want to fight it or not.
Okay, so he, as I mentioned, did not choose to appear on the show or send a statement, but in the letter that he sent you, printed in the Citizen Times, he states, Green Sage very much respects our employees' rights, rights to be for or against unionization. We also respect the longstanding election and secret ballot process provided for under the law. Before making this very important decision about whether to have a third party involved in your employment, we feel that our employees deserve the right to get the facts about unions and how unionization works. Now, that sounds like he might be bringing in those union busting consultants that, I had Chris Smalls from Amazon on my show 2 weeks after he was fired. And he was telling me that well, no, he didn't tell me then because he didn't start a union until about a year later. But subsequently, when I talked to him, he was saying that they pay these people $1,000 a day to come in and have these captive audience meetings with the workers. Have you had one of those yet? If not, do you expect to have one of them before the election?
I won't say the firm's name. We know the firm's name. We know that they specialize in union busting. On their website, they specifically said they specialize in workers' rights and workers' law. However, they only represent employers. So it spells out union busting. And so far, we've only had, we haven't had captive audience meetings. They haven't forced us to send any meetings, but they kind of have. We've been having meetings with a consultant, Steve Callan, that they've brought on, and we've had meetings with upper management members. And we're kind of from what I've heard about this law firm is that they wait until the last couple of days to start really union busting. So we're kind of preparing ourselves. But so far, it's just been upper management sitting down with us and telling us about Green Sage and about what the company is and what their goals are.
We're getting a comment, Arianna, for you to speak a smidge louder.
Okay.
Okay. So what are the kinds of things they're telling you? And are you getting the impression that any of your coworkers are getting persuaded?
I can say we're definitely not getting persuaded. The kinds of things, so one of the things we're asking for is open book management. And so in response to that, they put together a whole PowerPoint for us about our numbers and et cetera. But open book management is you give me the book and I open it and I look at it. So how am I supposed to know if these numbers are real or not? You could be putting any numbers on the PowerPoint and telling me this is what we make, this is what we do. But they sat us down and had us go through that and they didn't explain to us how sorry, I'm blanking, how our wages work, like for upfront. Yeah, upfront there's, as Liz mentioned, multiple different hourly rates that factor into it. And then, your tip pool, you can't differentiate that. Back of house, you can't differentiate 10% from whatever Green Sage itself is paying you. So they didn't show us any of that, which is what we want to see. And they just told us, this is how much our profit was, this is how much our bills are, et cetera. All of us sat down in those meetings and had a lot of questions, and we're just using those as opportunities to be direct and confrontational and ask the questions we actually want to ask.
It's interesting. With all this information that you're asking for, it's putting me in mind that the ideal situation would be a worker-owned co-op, right? But of course, he would never agree to something like that, I would imagine.
No, but I mean,
and after
it's definitely been a thought.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Offer buy him out. No. So yeah, I'm just wondering about. So the next election, you both shook your head. You're pretty confident you're not going to get any defections. That's what happened with Starbucks and Charlotte Street. I covered that unionization effort, which failed, even though the Starbucks in Boone succeeded. And the feeling on that was they didn't wait long enough. They didn't really know each other that well. They hadn't established a level of trust. And so some of the union busting got to some of these workers. But you don't think that's going to happen. So say you win this election, and now that you want to sit down and negotiate a contract, I don't know if you know this, but Amazon they won their union a year ago, and Amazon's been stalling for a solid year. They won't sit down with them. I don't know if they just and also what I'm finding out with Amazon is they really love the people that are come and go. They don't like long-term employees like Chris Smalls and Derek Palmer, because they know the ropes and they have some authority when they're speaking to other workers. They just want to cycle these people in and out for the express purpose so they can't start a union. Do you think that they're waiting, Arianna, for you to graduate and go on to some better job or something?
It definitely feels like that, especially because Green Sage advertises as a place where you can grow. And I've been trying myself. I came in a line cook position. I'm already doing things that a person above me, which would be a lead cook, would be. And I've asked for that position multiple times and they tell me no. So it's why would I stay? So they do try to force you out with ways like that, with not giving you raises you should have, or benefits you should have, or the hours, or the position, or whatever. And they just try to keep you as small as possible, doing as much work as possible until you get fed up and leave.
So what do you say? Well, you weren't there very long, Liz, but what would you say the turnover is? I mean, James tells me for him to be at Tupelo Honey as a dishwasher for 7 months is like a record, because these dishwashers just come and go,
Yeah, and I think that to some degree, higher turnover is expected in the hospitality industry. If somebody spends a year or 18 months in a place, it's probably because they really enjoy it. Um, but that, yeah, I mean, turnover within a company like Green Sage is extremely high. People don't stay there much at all. I can't say too much about it as a company, but in our store was while I was working there, nobody left.
Mhm.
In my time there, the only thing that happened was I had people that wanted somewhere to grow, and Green Sage would not allow them. I mean, the kitchen structure there is just like awful.
Hmm. Had
Yeah,
you been in restaurant management before in
I have.
Maryland? Hmm.
I've had over 10 years of restaurant management experience, and I owned my own restaurant briefly.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
exciting. So you can almost relate somewhat from his point of view because you know what pressures he's dealing with, right?
I do. Yeah, he acts. It's not that I don't understand. I certainly do. I think that Randy's company has struggled. I mean, Green Sage has like drama, like people with the lawsuit, with there's talk in the community, about Green Sage as a restaurant. I really think this could be an opportunity for him to figure it out. I think like listening to the people that work for him is important. And I don't think that they're going to back down from this unionization effort. I know that the co-chair of our committee, Addie, Addie's somebody who's been in the kitchen working for over a year. She does every single role of a kitchen manager without the title or the pay. She's asked, her and I sat down with Randy and started asking in person about this transition in December. She still doesn't have it. Um, so yeah, turnover is expected, but if people can't even go from a level one cook to a level two, or from a level two to a manager, or any of these things, the turnover is just there's no place to grow for anyone.
Can I take it they don't have a person who's dedicated to do human resources at the company? Because it sounds like that person should be doing that.
Well, fired. I mean, their upper management turnover is pretty crazy. Like the GM prior to me, he had just like left his keys on the desk and left when, and everybody loved working with him in the store. I think he was
Yeah.
just fed up in that
Mhm.
his position, and I can understand why.
Hmm. Well, maybe this is a personality issue. You know, the Asheville Watchdog did that series on the museum and people's issues with the manager. I mean, with the museum director. Now, I had lunch with her. I think she's a lovely woman, but you know what? I don't have to work for her. So you
Right.
never know until you're actually working for someone and they're in a pressure situation. Well, we're just gone a little bit over our time, but I wanted to ask you, Arianna, because I always ask my guests who are, oops, there she goes. I hope she can get back in.
Oh no.
Yeah, she'll probably log back in. I always ask my guests who are organizers and activists what made them interested in that, you know, what growing up. And specifically, I had asked her if she was influenced at all by the Bernie Sanders campaign, because so many Starbucks workers in the New York Times actually headlined an article saying that they all attributed their activity to his campaign and his support of unions. But when
Yeah,
I asked Arianna, she said that wasn't the case with her. I think she said her mom or her dad was in a union. I'll wait for her to come back on. But
sure.
what's how did you get interested in unions, Liz?
I'm politically interested in unions, and Bernie Sanders is doing a wonderful job of being supportive of it, and I'm very grateful. I'm glad to have him. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I support it as a movement, and I think that the workforce needs a voice, and I'd like to see all of our work industries. I don't know, the people working in them running things. Disconnected ownership's not good anywhere.
Yeah, we used to have like, I don't know, 30 or maybe even 50%, I forget the number now, of our workers in unions in the heyday. And now it's down to like 70%, I think, and 7% in private employers and maybe 9% in the government. But It's very sad because a lot of people don't know that strong unions benefit even people that are not in them. They benefit the entire
Really?
middle class.
That's right.
And
That's why I support unions.
yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing my show either Tuesday or Thursday on the East Palestine train derailment
Right.
and several aspects of that. But one of the aspects is the fact that they have only 2 employees on these really long train cars. And they're responsible for everything that goes on in these train cars.
Yeah.
And they also have these incredible shifts where they're up, 36, 48 hours. And it's inhuman, Same thing with truck drivers. I mean, work has just become horrible in this country. And you wonder why so many people, well, here she is. You wonder why so many people, different background. It's very moving. You look like a Modigliani painting right there, I think, or Vermeer, right? Doesn't she look very Renaissance?
Yes.
Anyway, so yeah, and also going to be talking about the government agencies that are supposed to be regulating these corporations and how much regulatory capture there is. In other words, a lot of people from the industries go to work for the agency and then they go real easy on them once they're in government, or the other way around, they're in government and then they leave to do cushy jobs with the industry. And that's happening. Obviously, we can see Pete Buttigieg is doing nothing about the railroad situation. He's doing nothing about the airline situation. And it's most probably because he wants to run for president again, and he needs the support of all those corporate donors. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's always about accountability. And I don't care if it is just a compost program. I don't care if it is just coffee and eggs. It's in solidarity with a movement that holds anyone in power accountable for every single thing they say.
Yeah.
And Green Sage doesn't do that.
Okay, Arianna, I was just asking, and you told me on the phone why you're interested in unions, because you're so young. Did you study them in school, or is someone involved in the union?
To be honest, personally, like I'm a kid of this industry. Like my dad was a chef for 20 years prior, so I got to like watch and my mom was also in the restaurant industry. So just seeing like what trying to live a life in this industry has been like for people above me, and now I'm starting out my own life as a young 20-year-old in this industry as well and trying to grow, and just all the blocks that I've seen and I've experienced myself. And then my boyfriend's sister actually worked with Raise Up for a while, and she told us about her efforts and trying to help local people, unionize. And when we started talking about it during the water crisis, it just seemed like such an obvious answer to at least start these conversations, to start speaking out against what this industry does and how it just tries to, cycle us through and not care about us and not actually be like a job.
Well, that's wonderful. I wish you all the success. And I just want to give you some hope. 2.5 years ago, I had on my show Savannah Kinzer, who's another young woman who was working at the Whole Foods in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And she was fired for wearing a Black Lives Matter mask. This was during the pandemic. And she sued them and she won her lawsuit. So you have to persevere. Especially when your beliefs, your strongly held beliefs are at stake. So we will follow up with this effort in future shows. But in the meantime, I want to thank you very much, both of you, for being on. And I want to ask everyone in the audience to please share this show. Oh, one final question. What are you asking people to do? Are you asking people to call Randy, call or write him to support the union? Are you asking people to boycott Green Sage? What's your ask of viewers?
I think just come into our stores and show people that you support, especially in the South store. I know we can use a lot more of that, a lot more customer interaction and feedback. If you have any things that you see that you would like changed in the business too, that we could advocate for, let us know. Like, I think just starting these conversations is what's important most to us at this time.
Yeah, I mean, why can't customers get in on this as well, right? It may be one big happy family. We're all stakeholders in a restaurant. The workers, the customers, not just the owners or the shareholders. And when This is what the Starbucks workers ask to when you say your name, because when they're going to call out your drink, are you asking people to say their name is Union Strong so that you
That'd
guys
be
can
great.
call out Union
I
Strong?
like it. That's great.
That would be great. Yeah.
That's a good idea, right? See?
That's a great idea.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, guys. And
Thank you,
good luck.
Arianna. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.